What's up, everybody? All right, get started in a second. Let me just set this up real quick. Go to my YouTube channel, make sure I can see comments from y'all. Y'all come back now. And here we go. Found the live stream. Awesome. So today I have a topic to cover, actually. I'm going to be about common regrets in life, because one of the things that I've learned as an individual, look, I've met hundreds of people. I've made eye contact with people who make lots of money, lots of people who you would think have everything. And you know what's scary? Rates of depression and unhappiness in individuals with money is almost higher than rates of depression in other people. You have to be really, really careful with how you live your life and how you spend the money that you earn and how you spend your time. Because if you're not careful, money will not fix your problems. And I'm not saying money can't fix your problems. Money absolutely can. However, the problem is that a lot of us believe, especially when we're struggling and when we're trying to make bills and we can't, we're living paycheck to paycheck, we think that if we just had more money, then our lives would be better. We would be happier. In reality, money often brings more problems. I've met a lot of people who have tons of money. They have more money than they know what to do with. And a lot of these people are miserable to be around. They're really neurotic, really negative, and always in a rush. Always trying to figure out what they can do to get more money. Always thinking about money, 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 money. Okay, so what I want to present to you guys is a way for you to make less of these mistakes and increase the chance that you live a life that's more meaningful. I want you to be able to live a life where when you're dying, when you're 70 or 80 or however old you are when you die, you can look back on your life and feel proud and feel satisfied and feel like you played your cards well. That's what I want for you guys. And I wish it was as simple as telling you that if you made $1 million that you would feel that way. But the reality is, it's not that simple. Some of the hardest things in life have nothing to do with earning money. It's all about learning to be happy with whatever you have, regardless to what you want. And that's really tricky because, obviously people always want more. But I have an exercise that you guys can do that's going to help you be more aware of how you're spending your time and specifically who you're spending your time with, okay? So you can find a lot of content online about what people regret when they die, right? So you can find interviews with people who are literally on their deathbeds. They are about to die in a week or a month, and they've been thinking about their whole lives, thinking about everything that they did to get themselves to that point. And you know what some of the most common regrets are? Not spending time with people you love, working too hard, not sharing your feelings, settling for a romantic partner who doesn't bring the best out in you. What are a couple other ones? The main ones: not taking care of your body, trying to impress your parents instead of impressing yourself, and worrying too much, okay? So I'm going to go over each of these in a little bit more detail because I think it's quite important that you think about this, because maybe you'll be like, oh, I don't want to think about death, Jack. I don't want to think about that stuff. But look, guys, we're all going to die. And you probably know people who've already died. In my case, I almost died. My father died. I saw him die when I was 12. I know death is part of life. And death is something that you have to confront. You have to get over your fear of death. Because if you do not, then that fear will control you and the decisions that you make in life. One of the other things that people commonly regret is not taking enough risks. And this is kind of ironic because the reality is you cannot be alive without taking risks. So I want to clarify here, because it's not that you need to take more risks. It's that you need to be aware of the risks that you already take. For example, one of my roommate's friends, her aunt has a husband. They have a kid, and she's pregnant with 2 new babies. Okay? Her husband just died in a motorcycle accident. Do you consider that normal? Because it is. Dying in car crashes, like one of my roommate's fathers died in a car crash. I know people who've died in a car crash. My mother knows people who've died in a car crash. If you are even around a car, you are literally putting your life on the line. So think about this, because if you find that, you're hesitant to take a risk because you don't know if you're going to earn the money for it, or you don't know if you're going to be able to, find success, or you're not sure if you're going to do well in this job that you want to try working out for, right? Compare these risks to the risks of getting in an automobile, which you most likely regularly do. Statistically, you probably get in a car regularly, multiple times per week. And it's ironic from my perspective, really, that so many of us struggle to take basic risks to improve the quality of our lives, right? Like, let's take a step back here. Like, in my case, what's a risk that I took that drastically increased the quality of my life? Moving to Nicaragua. I had an opportunity to go live in a foreign country and get paid to be there. I had to put everything I knew behind. I had to leave the people I was associated with. I had to accept that I was making a decision to improve my life at the expense of some of my closest friends, because they were going to lose a very supportive role in their life. I had to accept that I didn't know the language. I was going to be scared and lonely. And I didn't know what would happen. It was incredibly uncertain. I knew that the situation wouldn't last. Like, what kind of situation? What are the chances of you being in a position where you get paid to be who you are for a long period of time? Like, that's not likely, right? So I knew that the circumstance of me entering Nicaragua was most likely temporary. And I could have chosen to not do that. I could have stayed at my job at Starbucks, and I could have kept trying to make things work. But I knew that that was an opportunity to drastically change the reality of my life. And I took that opportunity. And a lot of people I knew perceived that as very risky. Aside from the things I just talked to you about, people said, like, oh, you're going to this third world country, you're going to get robbed, you're going to get shot, you're going to get murdered. Like, people were telling me that constantly, okay? And the reality is they were all ignorant. They don't understand how the world works, and that we're all in danger everywhere. And that's what I want to get at, right? Because for a lot of people watching this, I know logically you guys wouldn't have been able to take that risk that I took to get this life that I have. Most people are unable to take those risks. And this is what I want to point out to you. It's not that they don't take risks. It's that they're not aware of the risks they're already taking, right? Like, I took a risk that realistically, in the worst case scenario, I go to Nicaragua, everything goes to shit, and I return home. So I lose money, and I lose the job that I quit, okay? That's the worst case scenario, realistically, right? Whereas, if you're getting in a car, your worst case scenario is your own death. And that is realistic. That's not okay, the fear of going to Nicaragua and getting shot is unrealistic. If you go to Nicaragua and you participate in protests and you put yourself there, then yeah, maybe it's a realistic fear to get shot. But if you are just going to this country to tour and to live, and you are not going to these high-profile events where there's huge amounts of people and a lot of danger, It's not realistic for you to think that you're going to get, like, violently killed. However, in a car, it is absolutely realistic that you could die in this car, okay? And I'm putting a lot of time into this because it is so common for me to meet people who don't risk things for their happiness. They're stuck in their stable lives, getting a paycheck, doing something that they hate because they're too scared to take risks to improve the quality of their life and get themselves closer to a life that has meaning and value. Yet these same people step in automobiles regularly. Do you understand the contradiction here? Most of us, myself included in the past, we are willing to step in a car and put our very life in danger, yet we are unwilling to take basic, simple risks that at the most will just inconvenience us in the future. And this is what's so frustrating about humans, myself included. We are full of contradictions. We live in a world where any of you listening to this can literally step outside of the system, earn money online, change your location to an area that essentially doubles or triples your income, establish yourself with a community of people, find your own family. You can make your own family. You can literally do anything that you want. There is a way for you to get paid doing what you love. No matter who you are, no matter what you think about yourself, no matter if you're insecure or you're confident, it is possible for you to do what you love and earn money from it. Yet the reality is the vast majority of humans do not do this, despite the fact that the internet makes it completely possible. Okay? Myself included, I used to doubt that you could make money online. Which is so dumb. Like, now I understand how ridiculous it is to doubt that you can make money online. That's like doubting that a doctor can earn money or doubting that a lawyer can earn money. Does it make sense? Of course a lawyer earns money. Of course doctors earn money. You can't doubt that. You can't argue that they're like scammers and that it's not real and every doctor that you see is actually not a doctor and they're lying to you. They're not earning money. They're not earning anything. Yet this is the logic that most of us apply to online income. We're like, no, it's a scam. Everybody who does it is lying. They're not real. Like, that is actually how most of us think, which is so dumb. It is literally a contradiction because we should treat online income just the same as any other profession. Yeah, there's easier ways to do it. There's harder ways to do it. There's illegitimate ways to do it. And there's legitimate ways to do it. But you can't argue that it's not possible. That's ridiculous. You can't say a lawyer doesn't exist. Like, lawyers, they're all liars. None of them actually earn any money. They're just making us all think they earn money, right? Like, that doesn't make sense, right? Whereas if I talk about online employment, I could say something like this. You know, there's people who earn money online. They're all liars. Nobody actually earns money online. They're just fooling you into thinking that they earn money online, okay? I could say that, and a lot of you would agree with it. A lot of people who would hear that statement would be like, yeah, that's true. That's how I feel. But that doesn't make any sense. Like, you can say the same thing about some prolific profession. Like, okay, I've been using lawyers and doctors, but let's talk about something else. Let's talk about car salesmen, right? What if I told you, hey, no car salesman actually gets paid any money. They don't make any money. Nope, it's all a lie. Obviously, that doesn't make sense. And I'm telling you this because I want you to get that this is a contradiction. I want you to understand that online income is an opportunity for every human on the freaking planet. And you shouldn't have any doubt about whether it's possible. If anything, you can have doubts about whether it's going to work for you. You can have doubts, you can have insecurities, you can have thoughts like, oh yeah, I know it's possible, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. That is okay. That we can work with. That is logical. That just means that you got to become more confident. You got to work on things more. But if you tell yourself that it's not possible to earn money online, you are literally lying to yourself. Okay? You got to be really careful. That's my rant about contradictions. So now let's look at some of these chats. All right. Medusa says, what's up? Niraj says, hey. Axel, hey. What's up, Axel? Arian says, good point about the car. I don't want to leave the country because I have family here. And that's completely fine. You don't always have to leave the country, obviously. But what I'm saying is entertain the fact that you can change your location and be earning more money because of it, okay? For example, let's talk about California. California is one of the most expensive places to live in the United States, okay? Let's say you have a family in the city. That means that for a one-bedroom apartment, you could be paying $2,000, all right? If you move 3 or 4 hours into the country, that cost goes down to $600. You can always change your location. And obviously, like, okay, it's stressful to change the location when you have a family. My parents did that to me like 6 times. And when I was a kid, I admit I was a bit resentful. Like, I was always the new kid over and over and over and over again. I had trouble making friends because of that. Because I didn't know people for 10 or 12 years like everybody I was around. I didn't grow up around all these people. I was in one place for 2 years, one place for 4 years, another place for 5 years, another place for 3 years, different countries, like no way to know any of the other people, right? That being said, I now understand that my parents did something incredibly good for me, because now as an adult, as a person who's developed, I have an edge over most people that I know because I can see opportunity as it is. I don't have a clouded judgment based on the one location I was raised in. I've seen the perspective of people in Nicaragua, in the United States, in Saudi Arabia, in Morocco, in England, in all of these different countries. And my parents changing my location over and over again directly contributed to me being able to be the person I am now. If it wasn't for my parents exposing me to all of these new places and new information, then I wouldn't be as well off as I am now. I have a life where I can be myself. I get paid to be myself. People pay me just to talk to me because of my positivity, enthusiasm, and access to information. A lot of that boils down to my parents changing my location. And I'm just sharing this with you because as a parent, I don't know that many people who are really well off who stayed in one place the whole time. Typically, if you stay in one place always and you want that stability, it can create a lot of, ignorance. It's so easy to think that you understand the world, but if you haven't seen it from all these different angles, you honestly have no idea, right? So I understand that it's more stressful to move a family. But as somebody who, I was moved by my parents multiple times throughout my childhood, right? Like, I was born in Sri Lanka. Then we lived in Lesotho in Africa. Then we lived in Saudi Arabia. Then we lived in England for a bit. Then we lived in America. In multiple places. I've lived with over 45 different individuals in my life, okay? And it's true that it was hard, and I was a bit resentful towards my parents when I was really young. But I got over that shit fast as soon as I started to see how sedentary a lot of my classmates are. A lot of the kids that I went to school with in high school who had spent their whole lives in the same place around the same people, they're stuck. Like, don't get me wrong, I can improve my life a lot. I don't have a whole lot of money, but I get to do whatever I want. I'm a well-known individual in certain societies and very respected by a lot of people. I have a reputation. I'm making a name for myself, right? A lot of these people I went to school with, they are literally stuck in jobs they hate, and they feel really depressed. Some are suicidal. They don't have lives that are meaningful to them. And this is super common, especially in individuals who spend their whole lives in one location. So it's tricky, right? Because sometimes you have to do the things that hurt a little bit now, but prevent a lot of pain in the future. So let's get back to this common regrets thing, okay? Because it's really important that... Oh, someone else said hey. Hey, Eli! Good to see you again, man. Thanks for participating. In this call, I'm talking about the regrets that people have when they die, okay? Because one of the things I want you guys to be able to do is live a life full of meaning. This is much more important than earning a bunch of money. Because even if you earn a bunch of money, you have to learn to live with meaning, how to be in the moment. Because if you're not careful, you'll end up just like most of the other entrepreneurs. And they earn more money, but it's not enough. It's never enough. They need more. They need a bigger number, a bigger goal, another goal. They're never satisfied. And they go through their lives appearing as very successful to most other people, but personally, constantly feeling like they're failing and they're not doing enough. And they could always, always, always be doing more. I don't want that to happen to you guys. I want to make sure that I talk to you about these things, even if they're hard to talk about and they're hard to listen to. And you know, it's super frustrating is nobody wants to hear this shit. People just want to hear how to make money right now. They don't understand that even if that actually happens, which is quite unlikely, if it does actually happen, it probably will fuck them. They don't have the mental stability to be able to hold on to money. You have to change what your mind is in order to be able to retain money and spend it effectively in a way that brings meaning into your life. And the key to being able to live a meaningful life is to confront your death. You have to think about death so much that you stop being scared of it. Like in my case, because my father died and I thought I was going to die much younger, and then I had an illness and I got better, like I had to confront myself, right? And what this taught me is it gave me this ability to just be incredibly grateful and happy with every single day that I get. I can go through something crazy and then go out and have lunch with my friends and feel really good and happy. Because, you know, whatever happens in the future, I, right now, have an awesome group of people who I love and who they love me. That is amazing. That is more than so many people in this planet have. And I want you guys to understand that there's a lot of things that you may think are irrelevant to you. You may think like are morbid, right? Like especially death. But you're going to die. And you may die soon. As far as you know, you could get in a car and die tomorrow. And imagine a scenario where you're in love with somebody, right? And they're the love of your lives. You think so positively about them. You think amazing things about them most of the time. But imagine, they're being nitpicky with you or something, and you get in a fight, and you say something mean to them. They get in a car, they go away, and they die. And the last thing that you ever said to them was something mean. How would that make you feel? That the person you cared most deeply about, you beat them up over some petty little thing that doesn't matter, and it was the last thing that they ever heard from you. That's a reality for people. That's not just some story. That happens, okay? And in my case, that happened to me with my father. When my father was dying, I didn't want to spend any time with him. He was in a hospital bed, couldn't really breathe properly, going like... But the last thing he recognized was me, my face, his son. I was scared. I was a little kid. I was 10 or 11. I didn't want to be in the hospital. It was a really unpleasant place. I didn't want to see that my father was dying. I wanted to hide. I wanted to run away. Okay? So, My father died feeling alone because I ignored him when he was at his sickest. And this is a regret that I live with to this day. It has defined who I became because I understand now that you have to always treat people the best that you possibly can because you don't know what's going to happen to them. And it is likely at some point in your life that you will think everything's fine and then life does something absolutely insane to you. Either you get fired, you lose your job, that happens to somebody who is really supportive of you. A child you have dies or gets a crazy disease. Somebody you know gets murdered or robbed. These things happen. No matter where you are never safe from this kind of stuff. So do not let yourself live a life where you are being petty to people and you are not being grateful. It is so incredibly important to adopt a mentality where you are very, very grateful for everything that you have. And if you're interested in entrepreneurship, you want to become your own boss, you want to earn money online, there's one thing that you should know about entrepreneurial people. As you meet more and more successful entrepreneurs, you're going to notice some patterns in their personalities. And one of the most common things in entrepreneurs is that they don't complain. A complaint is the same as you saying, I see this problem and I'm not going to do anything to fix it. That's literally exactly what you're saying every time you complain. Whether it's about the weather, it's about a friend or your spouse or significant other, or about your job. Complaints keep you complaining about your circumstance. If you want to change your circumstance, you have to become aware of when you're complaining and stop complaining. That is the most important step. That leads to all of these things I'm talking about being more aware and being more grateful and experiencing more gratitude for the life that you have. Because you can think that money's going to fix your problems, but it's not that simple. You don't get an amount of money that then fixes your problems. You fix yourself, and then money comes to you. It doesn't work the other way around. You might think that, oh yeah, if I just had $1,000 more every month, my life would be perfect. The reality is, if you had $1,000 more every month, you would have the same problems that you have now, except they would be even bigger. If you really want to earn good money and live a good, high-quality life where you can provide for your family, you have to fix yourself. You have to look inwards and understand that every time you complain, you are literally saying, I am aware that this is a problem, and I'm choosing to do nothing to fix it. That's where it starts from. It starts from that mentality and being able to recognize it in yourself and stopping. Being aware that every time you complain, you are making more of the thing that you complain about. Complaining about something is the worst thing that you can do to yourself and the people that you love. It will not lead to the situation improving. Every time you complain, seriously look at yourself. Listen to what you're saying and ask yourself what you can do differently. Identify the thing that you're complaining about and figure out how you can present some kind of solution. That's where it all starts. And I know that seems simple. Like, how does that lead to running a really successful online business? How does that lead to like more dropshipping sales? How does that lead to more course sales? It does. I promise you, it does. It may not seem like it, but you have to get out of that mentality, this defeatist mentality. Most of the people in the world are stuck, and they're not stuck because of circumstances outside of their control. They would like everybody to believe that. Like, we want everybody to think, oh, I'm in this circumstance because my dad was an alcoholic. I'm in this circumstance because my dad is dead. I'm in this circumstance because I didn't have parents. I'm in this circumstance because I'm an orphan. I'm in this circumstance because I was sexually abused. I'm in this circumstance because I was in a car crash and I lost a leg. These are all things that are real and happen to people. But that doesn't mean that you let it fuck you for the rest of your life. Whenever something bad happens to you, you have a decision to make. And you've already made this decision, whether you realize it or not. Whenever something bad happens, you can either make that thing be the thing that screws you up for the rest of your life, or you can make it be a sense of strength. You can make it be the event that made you a strong, compassionate, empathic, talented individual. And if you haven't made that decision, you actually have. And it's going with the side of it being an event that screws you up. In my case, for example, my dad died when I was 12. You know how often people are just like, oh, you're fucked. You're depressed. If I go to a doctor and I mention that my father's dead once, they don't give a fuck about anything. They want to put me on antidepressants. They don't try and even test me to see if I'm actually depressed. They don't ask me any kind of quantifying questions to determine that. They see, oh, you went through this trauma? Oh, you're obviously fucked up, right? And that's kind of the problem, is that you have to be able to separate yourself from all of these defeated mentalities, because all of us come into the world surrounded by people who are complaining all the time about their circumstance, blaming their lives on other people. You are the only person in this world who can fix your problems. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And maybe you can think that somebody else will, but the reality is that they're not. Only you can fix your problems. And like in my case, this is a circumstance I'm in a lot, where people are like, they want me to like coach them, to hold their hand and show them exactly how to do something. But I know that the reality is, even if I were to do that, the second I leave, they will get into a circumstance where they need help and they won't know how to help themselves. And that's something that's really, really important, guys. All right, let's see. Hey, Emine. And Eli and Mao Zhao. I like that name. Mao Zhao. Mao Zhao. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Eli says, you too, man. How's life been? You seem happy. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing great, honestly. Like, I'm a little bit worried financially because I was focused so much on Skillshare, and I was getting like $1,000 a month from Skillshare, and that's all gone. So right now I'm like just paying my bills, and I don't necessarily know what's going to work. I don't know if Udemy's going to work. I don't know what's going to happen, right? But you know what? You're right. I'm happy because I don't need certainty. I don't need to know what's going to happen to me in order to feel happy, because I know that I already have so much more than most people in this world. I can spend my time doing things that I love. I'm surrounded by people who love me, support me, and encourage me. If I'm emotional, I have people who will hug me and ask me what's wrong. I have people who will take me out to lunch and talk about our situations. I'm not alone, even though I feel lonely sometimes. And these are things that so few people in the world have, you know? But again, the reason that I'm able to be this way, the reason I'm able to have this mentality, to talk positively and enthusiastically, even when things happen to me that I could be really angry about, right? Like with Skillshare, for example. I worked for 4 months dedicating all of my time on something, and then I got banned for something I didn't even do. I could spend months of my energy trying to fight, get that back, talk shit about Skillshare, get angry. But that wouldn't get me anywhere. I wouldn't be any better off than I am now. And I'm able to be this way because of the things that I'm talking to you guys about, because I confront my death. I know what is valuable to me. I think about, okay, every time I say something mean to somebody, I think about how would I feel if that person went off and died, and that was the last thing that I said to them. These kind of thoughts are regular for me. Every single day, I think about death. And yet here I am, a very happy, enthusiastic, encouraging, supportive person, right? Thinking about death doesn't necessarily have to make you morbid. It can make you have a newfound appreciation and energy for life. But I understand it alienates people. Like, it's really ironic, really, because in this live stream, I know without a doubt this is going to be the least watched live stream that I've ever done, because all I'm doing is talking to you guys about death and how you need to be more appreciative of the things that you have, right? And it's ironic because this is literally the most important information. This is the stuff that if you apply it to your life right now, seriously, passionately, within 2 or 3 years, you'll be earning good money. And that's what's so ironic about humans. We are contradictions. I think the best word to describe humanity is contradiction. We're capable of feeling multiple different ways at multiple different times. Our opinions can change on things. We can even feel differently about the same subject based on the time of day. If you ask me how I feel about something, as soon as I wake up, within like 2 minutes of waking up, I'm going to be like, that sounds dumb. But if you ask me like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, after I've been making videos and I'm all encouraging and supportive, I'll be like, oh my God, that's great. You should do it. Right? Same thing. Context is really important here. And again, it's funny. Like, I know that a lot of you guys don't want to hear this stuff, but I still have to talk about it, because there are some of you who will actually listen, even though it represents a very small portion of people, right? Let's see. Nas says hello. Hey, Nas. CJ the Traveler says, great points made. People will throw their story on to validate their dysfunctional stories. Yeah, it's very true. Very true. Amine says, try to create a Patreon account. Yeah, so I actually did make one a while ago. But I just haven't. Like, I'm much more interested in having useful content because, okay, you can't just have a Patreon account and run a YouTube channel and think that people are going to use your Patreon. Same thing with a course. Same thing with any monetizable product. You have to regularly talk about it and perform calls to action, right? Like in my case, for example, any of you based in the US, there are t-shirts below this video that you can buy that are graphically designed, right? I never talk about that. I never tell you guys to buy them, which is why nobody buys them. But when I talk about them, then people will buy them. Okay, and I'm telling you this because when it comes to Patreon, you can't just set up a Patreon account and think that your YouTube audience is going to support your Patreon account. You have to perform calls to action in your videos talking about Patreon, right? And from my perspective, I would much rather be using these calls to action on information products like courses. Like, that's why I talk about my OBS course, because it is information that has allowed me to live this life. And I would rather you guys spend $20 that supports me and you get a technical tutorial showing you exactly how to use the software that I use every day than me just say, hey, support me on Patreon. It's actually kind of hard to get people to commit to Patreon. It's possible, but usually you need a trade. You need some kind of incentive. We can talk about Chris Lynn's YouTube channel, actually, because this is a really good example. He monetizes Patreon more effectively than anybody else I know, okay? So he runs a YouTube channel called Daily Refinement. It's all about eBay, physical sale on eBay. 41,000 subscribers, right? And so what Chris does is he has a Patreon, but his Patreon isn't just to support him. You pay $100 a month and you get access to these mastermind calls that happen every single day for one hour in the early morning. So you can start your day off talking to a bunch of other like-minded individuals. Okay? That is a really effective system. I would consider doing something like that for Patreon. Absolutely. And I've thought about that before, specifically that model of having like what it would be like to wake up each day and have a group of people who are trying to fix their life and improve their problems and you know, get that energy going. And I think that's really valuable. Like I participate in these calls, but only once a week on Friday. And that alone has really changed a lot for me. It's made me a much more accountable person. And now I'm like able to do things more diligently. I have more regularity and more structure in my life. And that is something that I used to struggle with so much. I couldn't do something at the same time every day. I had trouble waking up at the same time and going to bed at the same time and eating regularly and all of these basic things. I just really struggled to accomplish. And it's only recently that I've been able to actually have more structure and stability in my life, right? So let's see, what else? Oh, and Arian says that with Chris, if you just want to listen to his mastermind calls, it actually only costs $10 a month. So yeah, so $100 for his Patreon that's not the minimum. You could actually have even less, right? Let's see. Arian says, good for you, staying off meds. We get stronger when we work through problems. Yeah. There's a phrase I use in Spanish. Confrontar tus problemas, which means confront your problems. And I say that a lot. It irritates people. But yeah, typically if you confront your problems, then you can move on in life. And so that's one of the things, actually, one of these regrets, right? Because I started this video talking about how I've been studying what people regret, right? So I watch videos of people on their deathbed as they're dying, what they talk about, what they wish they'd done differently. And one of the common things is that they feel like they have like settled and not shared their feelings with people. And this is something that's super common with males. Females are more likely to share their feelings, whether it's romantic or something not necessarily positive or something positive. Females in usual are a bit better with their like emotional conversations. They're able to talk about these things in general, you know, but typically. Whereas males tend to be more likely to keep things inside and not express their emotions. And this can be so true that they become unaware that their emotions are there, even when to another person it's super obvious that they're being affected by their emotions, right? And I'm just bringing this up because confronting your problems is a version of that. So I can share something really quick with my personal life as an example of this, right? So ever since I came back to Nicaragua, I've found that I have a bit more trouble with YouTube videos, a bit more trouble making as enthusiastic content about things. And not in a way that worries me or concerns me, but like specifically regarding videos where I'm showing things and doing videos with people, and especially the people I live with. I was really scared because I had feelings for, or I have feelings for one of my roommates, right? And I was scared that if I made content that this would bring that to light and that it would create problems. And that was creating this obstacle inside of me, right? And instead of confronting it and communicating directly with the individual, I was bottling it up inside. And this was starting to affect my YouTube channel. And it was also starting to affect my like ability to work and just be myself and be happy, because there was something that I was like lying about. And so recently I confronted that problem and I told the individual exactly how I felt. And now I feel like completely back to normal. And it's ironic because my fear was that I would lose everything by confronting the problem. But that is a completely irrational fear. The reality is that not confronting the problem creates the circumstance where it's possible to lose everything. Where in this case, I shared how I felt, moved on, and like, oh, okay, not moved on, but at least now there's not this thing inside me eating me up anymore. Now I'm able to just focus on exactly what I'm doing. Whereas I could have spent years continuing in that headspace that I was in, where there was a part of myself that I was hiding and not sharing, right? But I didn't do that. I confronted the problem, and that led directly to good things happening in my life, right? It's really important to confront your problems. Especially as a male, you probably have emotional feelings about stuff, like whether it's with your friends, your partners, whatever. There's a lot of conversations that are hard to have, but by having them now, you prevent way, way more problems in the future. Like, okay, I'll share another example. When I was in the United States, I spent some time with an old childhood friend of mine from, he used to live in Fredericksburg, but now he lives in Los Angeles, right? And he has this awesome relationship. They've been together for like 7 or 8 years. They're engaged now. And he told me this story about how at some point after like 3 or 4 years, he started developing feelings for somebody at his job, basically. It wasn't technically his job. It's like this side thing that he does, but his job, right? And so this individual chose to tell his girlfriend that he was developing feelings for his coworker. And do you know what happened? She was sad at first for like a week or two. They didn't talk as much. They took a little bit more space, you know? But ultimately, because he communicated, that kept their communication intact. That kept their trust intact. Fast forward 3 or 4 years, that same couple is engaged. They're super affectionate with each other. And I've seen a lot of couples. And let me tell you that typically by like 6 or 7 years, a lot of couples lose their affection for each other. They're not all cuddly and holding hands and being lovey and kissy. If you see a couple that's been together for 6 or 7 years and they are like that, that is a very strong indication that they have a really good relationship, right? But imagine if my friend had never communicated anything. Okay, so that means that inside he's bottling up his feelings for this other person because he doesn't want to hurt the feelings of his girlfriend. But that creates this boundary. It creates this block because he's no longer sharing a part of himself with the person that he loves most. And I really commend this friend because he was able to see that that's the worst thing that you can do, is not share with your partner. Because then you're no longer on the same page. You don't understand what's going on with each other. And it's so easy to just keep drifting further and further apart, even though you live together, right? That's what happens to a lot of couples. It's really common. And so, again, it's an example. Confront your problems. Confrontar, I think it is. I always get the conjugation wrong in Spanish. Confrontar tus problemas. Confront your problems, right? All right, let's see. CJ the Traveler says people need to constantly review their own personal stories to identify the bullshit excuses for not achieving their top 1%. Absolutely, man. I completely agree. There's so much stuff that we tell ourselves, and then it just becomes like a heuristic, I think is the word. I don't know what the exact psychological term is, but we tell ourselves that, oh, we can't do this because of this. Like for a while I did that, right? I was like, oh, I can't be more because I'm insecure. I'm having problems with confidence. And like, you know, I kept talking about that, and that kind of made it more true. But it's tricky because on one hand, you have to talk about something to admit it in the first place. That's the first step. You can't change it before you talk about it and admit it. But once you've admitted it, once you're in that stage, you can't just keep saying it over and over and over again. You have to progress out of it, right? You can't just keep admitting it over and over again because then you enforce that it's true. So it's tricky because there definitely is a time for everything. There's a time to be like, hey, I'm insecure and it's a problem. It's limiting what I'm capable of. But then there's also a time to stop saying that shit and to just work and to become more confident. Because if you keep saying, I'm insecure, I'm insecure, I'm insecure, I'm insecure, I'm insecure, I'm insecure, you make it true, right? And a lot of life is almost about lying to yourself. It's literally about being able to just tell yourself something, even though in the moment you don't think it's true, okay? Literally lying to yourself. I can give you an example, right? Like when I freaked out about Skillshare and I was starting to work on Udemy, I didn't think Udemy would improve. I didn't think I could do anything to make it grow, right? But that was me being illogical. So I would just tell myself, my life will get better if I work on Udemy every day for a week. My life will get better if I do this. Even though I didn't actually believe it at the time, it made me do the work. I lied to myself, right? And it's tricky because especially in the beginning, when you're not at your best, your mentality is going to make you think that things aren't possible. So you almost have to be able to lie to yourself to be positive, right? And also, like, being positive in some way is lying. Like, being cheerful can sometimes be about lying. The reality is that, like, the world's a pretty shitty place for a lot of people. There's a lot of death, violence, and hardship in the world. And ultimately, you know, the sun's going to blow up and we're all going to die. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth being positive or cheerful, right? But it could also be argued that you have to lie about things and just tell yourself that it doesn't matter. And just be happy anyway, right? It's almost like you have to train yourself to be logical sometimes and illogical at other points. You know, you got to take control of your contradictions instead of letting your deeper self just control them for you. That was really abstract, guys. I'm sorry. Mao Zhao says, what's your opinion about dropshipping from Walmart to Amazon? Competitive. Risky because, you know, you're dropshipping in a way that is frowned upon. You're not supposed to dropship on Amazon, but you can. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's doable. But again, okay, let me take a step back here. Regarding dropshipping, if you want to understand profitability and stability, okay? Profitability is how much money you earn. Stability is how long the business model can last, okay? Dropshipping with retail arbitrage is a low profit and low stability business model. It is a business model. You can earn money doing it, but it's incredibly competitive, and it's quite likely that you will experience a suspension or a ban at some point every year or two. Most people do, okay? So if you want stability, you have to understand the law of online income, okay? And the law of online income is that there's traffic and there are products. Income exists when traffic touches product, okay? Let's think about this and look at dropshipping from Walmart to Amazon as an example. Do you have your own product? No. Do you have your own traffic? No. You are paying for someone else's product and you are paying for somebody else's traffic. It's not your product. You're buying it from somebody. You don't own the intellectual property. You could get sued, okay? And traffic-wise, you're paying the platform around 10% typically, whether you're using eBay, Amazon, whatever, for their traffic, okay? You don't own the product and you don't own the traffic. Therefore, your stability and potential profitability is rather low. However, imagine a circumstance where you have created your own product. You own the patent for it. You own the intellectual property. In this case, it's your product. Even if you're still paying for traffic, you just drastically increased the stability of this business model because you have a product that cannot be taken away from you. It is yours. You just have to pay to create it, the material costs, the warehousing costs, all that kind of stuff. So this is a better position to be in, is to have a product that you own the intellectual property for, that you're drop shipping. Okay? And then even if you're selling it on Amazon, you're still paying for traffic, but this is a better situation to be in than just doing retail arbitrage, right? Because in that case, you're paying for someone else's product and you're paying for somebody else's traffic. In the case we just talked about, where you own the product and you're just paying for someone else's traffic. But in the perfect drop shipping scenario, you own the product and you own the traffic. You understand how to bring traffic to your own website to purchase a product that you own the intellectual property for. A dropshipping store built under this scenario becomes highly profitable and highly stable. Okay? It's important that you think a lot about profitability and stability. Okay? Especially regarding dropshipping. Because a lot of people will say things like, oh, dropshipping's dead, yada, 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 yada. But they're just kind of, they're specifically talking about retail arbitrage dropshipping, which is a specific form of business model. It's not the same as old dropshipping. To say old dropshipping is to say like all sales. I sell stuff. What do you sell? Golf clubs, courses, planes, airports. You know, you can sell anything. It's very, very, very broad to say I sell stuff. Same as I dropship. That could mean you dropship from Amazon. Could mean you dropship from Walmart. Could mean you do Shopify. Could mean you do something across all platforms. Could mean that you're just an ordering agent and you dropship things to your customers. There's a whole world out there. Tons of information, right? So be careful. All right, let's see. What's next? Yeah, Eli says that would be awesome. And CJ says that he's been in Chris's group and he does keep the group accountable. And that's kind of the main point, is like being able to be around people who will hold you accountable for the things that you're saying and the things that you're doing. If you say you're going to work on something, then next week somebody asks you, hey, did you work on that? That's quite beneficial. Typically, we need other people to hold us accountable. Some of us can hold ourselves accountable, but that's a pretty rare talent. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. I know this was kind of mundane for a lot of you. And a lot of people will, like, I know that the analytics for this live stream are going to be really bad, but c'est la vie. I wanted to talk about this stuff. So for the 3 or 4 of you who listened, thanks. See you next time. Ciao.